Hey, cousins. Hope all is well with you guys. Hope you're about to enjoy this beautiful weekend. Whether you in the house or out the house, enjoy it. Practice your self-care. Practice your mental health um, breaks or whatever. Make sure you got some stuff to do, some hobbies to keep you, kind of grounded and your true self. I know. I should be promoting that. I'm a damn social worker and a clinical therapist. That's the least I could do. Real quick housekeeping. Memberships are open. They are open if you're so inclined. If you are looking for a different type of conversation, head on over to Girl What That Got to Do with Wrestling on my Patreon. And the best thing you could do if you can't do nothing else, cousin, is watch the video, comment, subscribe in that order. You can watch and then like. But the main thing that's important is to watch the video. Not because I like you to watch the video and it helps, but because for us to have a coherent, fun, and decent conversation, I need you to know what you're talking about. Right? And we have great conversation, y'all. That's the main thing, cousins. I love talking to y'all. It's a good time. It is a key child. Okay? With that being said, Gail Kim is in a very interesting back and forth. And this, if you listen to why she is in this whole Jim Cornette, oh my God, you Asian, why you agree with him situation, is because she basically slammed deathmatch wrestling. And this transaction is so fascinating to me because it really talks about and shows how someone can take the heat off of them and throw it to you. So this is the origins. If you're not aware of what's going on, shout out to the cousin was like, you heard about Gail Kim? So I had to go and figure some things out because I saw it and I was just like, eh. So earlier this year, this director of Talk to Me and Bring Her Back, Michael and Zanny Filippo, I don't know how to pronounce their names. So they're down to the studio with A24, our house. You know A24 Neon. They're making a documentary about death matches, okay? And so the director took part in an exploding barbed wire match. And what you saw was them performing like a suplex through panes of glass, barbed wire, all kind of bullshit, okay? 70,000 likes. Filippo, the director, he was excited about it. Hideo Kojami, the video game director, he came and said, "Ooh, I love it. Probably make a whole game out of it." Gail Kim was like, "No, ma'am. Say you don't know how to tell a story without saying it." That's all Gail Kim said. And they saw that and looked dead in her face and said, "Excuse me, bitch." And so GCW owner Brett Lauderdale, he said, let me handle this, fellas, and moved them to the back and proceeded to say, this is a part of a documentary produced by A24 telling the stories of little-known deathmatch fighters from around the world. Well, it's probably the reason why they're little known, because I don't care for deathmatch wrestling either. You got to be a specific kind of person who likes to watch people cut up, dig up, and fuck up themselves. You have to be a specific type of fan and a person looking for that. Anyway, and I quote, he said, it's going to premiere at prestigious film festivals around the world. And I dare anyone to name one memorable Gail Kim match. So we're not even going to play this game, sir. Gail Kim and Awesome Kong. Gail Kim, when she was wrestling, I enjoyed seeing her come to the ring and do her thug thizzle. She was a very good wrestler. Her and Awesome Kong made history. So we're not even going to do that. And I'm sure we come up with a couple other ones, but that's the main and most important matches that she had, okay? Lauderdale later clarified his remarks and said that his comments were not because he likes Gail Kim. Now listen to the pivot. Rather, he shared his disappointment that she shares the same uninformed opinion about other pro wrestlers and personalities and deathmatch critics like Jim Cornette. Now, I'm well aware Jim Cornette slang the N-word, and, he's not for everybody. And sometimes I find myself wandering over to Cornette's drive-thru, and then I chuckle a little bit, and then I get the hell out of there. Like, get the hell out of here. But that was the pivot because she said that shit was whack. You decided to say, I don't like that you share Jim Cornette's thoughts. So, of course, everybody's like, what? Let's continue. He said, I don't dislike Gail Kim, and it's clear she's well liked by her peers. That's why it's so disappointing to see her echo the same uninformed, tell a story, hot dog handshake bullshit about death matches as old losers like Al Snow, Jim Cornette, and Dutch Mandel. She's better than that. I will agree. There's something to agree here. Hot dog handshake bullshit does run a story down. We are getting copious amounts of that on WWE TV. Many people took issue with the last line in Lauderdale's comments where he dared them to name a memorable Gail Kim match, okay? That includes NXT Jordan Grace and Stephanie DeLander of TNA, who said, you could have kept the last line out. I agree with them. Okay, they was like, girl, we're not even going to do that. You can have your issues, but don't even. So he says, well, reply to her about what I said. Kim also responded to Lauderdale and said they should have a match. She promised to make it memorable, but it actually have ring psychology and a story. Lauderdale simply replied that he's not a wrestler. And we see that, we know. But that's not the end of this, guys. So here's the tweet, okay? She responded to the losers like Al Snow comment. She said, I like you, Brett, as well. I said I would watch the doc and give it a chance. I dislike death matches and always have. Like I've said before, wrestling is subjective. I also like Dutch, Jim Cornette, and Al. This is what is so great about debates and conversations. We can all have a say. Well, I mean, it'd be nice if that's how that went. If it was a debate in good faith. A lot of times this wasn't. Just like this guy flipped the whole conversation away from the death match to who this woman is agreeing with. And now that's where we're focused on. So Jim Cornette responds to Gail, and he said, Gail, it's okay to tell the truth about death matches. The garbage wrestlers that do them. And the garbage jock sniffers like this one that promote them. You showed more talent in that ring in 15 minutes than any one of these cretins in their lives. Don't watch. The smell of trash isn't subjective. Like I said, listen, I always find myself sometimes agreeing with Jim Cornette. And I agree with Jim Cornette. So now we made it to the Raho section of the conversation, okay? This person on X said, hey, just wondering, what are your opinions on Cornette calling your fellow Asian women wrestlers things such as schoolgirls and sex dolls? As someone who's been a trailblazer for women's equality in pro wrestling industry, don't you feel that's a bit counterintuitive? This all comes from her saying that death matches suck. Now, let me say something before we dive into this. First of all, we're not going to sit here and play like Asian, specifically Japanese women are presented to the Western audience like schoolgirls and sex dolls. We're not going to play that game. And if you want to get down into the dust, go and look at how Asians draw, specifically Japanese animators draw the women in those animations. Big busty, big thick thighs, big plump asses, small waist, okay? Some of them are muscle mommies, and some of them are just thin. They're just extremely busty and big in schoolgirl outfits with ponytails, tiny lips, tiny noses, big giant glassy eyes, and they're like, sit here and tell me I'm lying. Sit here and tell me Jim Cornette, who is a white man, an older white man, is telling you how those Japanese, I don't want to say Asian, because Japanese women are represented highly in wrestling in Western right now. Who's telling you how Japanese women are presented to him? How are you upset? what's counterintuitive is lying about what's really going on. There's a reason. Now we're getting in the dark. We're getting in the dark here. Why white middle-aged men go over to Asian countries, Philippines, okay, Vietnam, Japan, South Korea, Thailand. You understand? Because they're looking for small Asian, quote unquote, girls. And those Asian women, not all, some, okay, they know that. So they come to these white men who are looking for something really specific and do that with them. They get their money, they get whatever they got to get and do what they got to do. Because a lot of times it is exploitation. It's the biggest known secret. Jim Cornette didn't tell a lie. He didn't tell a lie. So I'm not really understanding what's going on. Let's dive in. Let's dig in. So Gail said, well, when did he say all this? Send me a clip. So they was like, we got a whole playlist. All right.
She's back
to save the division.
Here comes this buck-toothed 87-pound girl in a frilly pink frock with that constant quizzical look on her face, like she's confused at seeing colors. And she runs in the ring, drop kicks Reba, comes off the top rope with a crossbody to the floor on Hater and looked like it killed her, and makes this giant comeback from this 10-year-old girl, at least 10-year-old size girl, that upstaged the biggest female name that they have ever signed. Saraya comes out, gets in a shitty fight with Britt Baker and disappears, and Raho comes in and clears the fucking ring. Can you explain that to me? And then after they did all this, the babyfaces just walked off and left the heels laying there looking at them.
Well, listen, the women's division has been a disaster and a booking mess for a very long time, especially bad the last several weeks as the ratings have died almost.
Okay, remember, Kenny Omega was supposed to be working with the women at the time of this recording. This is 2 years ago. I want somebody to tell me what he said wrong about Raho. I'm going to just give you a few seconds. What did he say wrong about Raho? Absolutely nothing. That's exactly how the woman looks when she comes out confused. She's looking like, oh my God, I just got here, like she just hatched from an egg, and she clearing the ring. She just came out and held the title just on the recent episode. And I was like, oh, look who's back. I don't know where Hikaru Kushida went. That's a strong Asian representation. Where the fuck she went? Who knows? He ain't even say nothing wrong about Raho. I'm still waiting.
Glory days now of this women's division. And I like the fact that she no longer dresses like a schoolgirl going to school. Now she's a schoolgirl going to a birthday party at Motion Potion or something. But Saraya debuted.
What did this guy say that's wrong? What did the guy say? That's Jim Cornette's sidekick. What did he say that was wrong about Raho? One of y'all cousins, get in the comments and get me together. I love to be gathered because I'm still trying to figure out what the hell did she say. I mean, what? That's how she's presented. That's how they. Did we forget Saraya, the girl who was in NXT? What was she look like? I thought she was supposed to be Sailor Moon at one point. That woman dressed like a schoolgirl, a Japanese schoolgirl. What are we doing here? Listen, the issue I'm having is everyone's acting fucking stupid. So let's just get to Gail Kim's response. Here, somebody said they posted a picture of Stephanie Vaquer doing the devil's kiss, and they said, so it must be creepy that everyone's staring at Vaquer's ass every time she does this move. If you're like this with Raho, you're like this with the rest. First of all, she said, before we get into that, and then we're gonna wrap it up. She said, I'll say I haven't watched AEW in a very long time, but when I did watch Raho, and nothing against her at all because I'm the biggest supporter of all women who want to make it in the business, but I did feel uncomfortable watching her because the camera shots would go up her skirt, and she was always dressed like a very little girl, and it felt improper. Right now, will somebody tell me where she was wrong? Somebody tell me where she was wrong. Somebody tell me. She went on to say, I'm also into very believable wrestling. Not everyone, especially nowadays. And it's very hard for me to believe a little girl that was being portrayed the size of was fighting the woman they had in the division. To put into that context, I find Io, Mia, Asuka, Kairi, and Lei Ying to be more believable, and I don't feel uncomfortable watching them. I don't get it. So then the fan said, well, Riho's the same size as AJ Lee. Kim said, okay, I'm not taking any away from her talent. I'm talking about what I saw years ago when it made me feel uncomfortable. She looked like a very young girl in a frilly skirt, and the cameraman was up her ass, and it made me uncomfortable. Finally, Gail concluded, I'm not going to comment on Riho again. I've stated my opinion. It was 4 years apart. It was a 4-part tweet, so you can look at it again if you don't understand what I'm saying. It was more than about her size. It was a combination of things, and I was asked about and I answered. Then, people got to do we got to get her somehow. So they pulled up the devil's kiss. And I love this response. Stephanie didn't look underage when the cameraman was shooting her ass. That particular show, years ago, she looked very young and it felt uncomfortable to me. What is so hard to understand? I could twist your words too, You like watching young girls up their skirts? Thank you. I ain't got nothing else to say about it. I don't see no controversy with what Gail Kim said because she didn't tell not one goddamn lie. And the only people who was like, that's not true, is the people that want to see women act like little fucking girls. And I talk about this a lot. I talk about the Lolitification of women in pro wrestling. What is the Lolitification? I could talk, that's a whole nother podcast because I really want to get into that. Okay? She ain't lying. When the Asian girls is that is what they present. They present that. Why are we sitting here acting like that's not real and that's not true? Gail Kim was the anti to that. That's why everyone enjoyed looking at Gail Kim. She didn't come out there acting like AJ Lee and with the bow-legged and looking in the air and don't nobody want to see that shit. And we're not going to sit here and act like Asian women aren't babyfied. We're not going to sit here and act like it. It's true and it's a fact. And it is uncomfortable to watch. Riho, outside of her wiry wrestling, is presented like that. So cut the shit. There's nothing here. So Kenny Omega, and then we definitely gonna wrap it up. He decided to respond. The issue people are taking is that she didn't say Jim Cornette's a dickhead and asshole. First of all, Jim Cornette is who you probably should listen to when these women are being presented to these old ass white men. That's the first motherfucking thing. What Jim Cornette said, shocker, wasn't wrong. That's what he's seeing. That's what's being presented. So we can hang that shit up. So what did Kenny Omega tweet? Another day, another legend doing splits on it for the yearly TKO gift basket. I don't even think that's what it was. All this woman said was, I don't like death matches. And it done went from that to this is a bunch of bullshit. It's a bunch of bullshit. And if you want to study bad faith arguments and why sitting and having debates with people like this is moot and unnecessary, go back and look at this whole thing. Gail Kim wasn't wrong, or I didn't see her be wrong at no point. Jim Cornette gave you insight into what white men are watching, and those who are uncomfortable, speak on it, and those who want to see it, love it. They touched on a Lolitification of women, how Asian women, specifically Japanese women, are presented to the Western audience and the male gaze. Everything that went on, I don't see anything that Gail Kim said wrong. If you find something wrong, please let me know. So she responded, she said, if you're trying to beat around the bush and misinterpret things like the rest of the yahoos, let me clarify. And if you're not talking about me, then I apologize. But the all tribalist, the crazies out yesterday, I misinterpreted things, whatever. She shouldn't even fucking apologize for nothing. She has nothing to apologize for. I'm going to leave it right there. I want y'all to get in the comments. Tell me where I'm wrong. Tell me where Gail's wrong. Tell me where Jim Cornette's wrong. Tell me if you love death matches. Tell me. Let's have the conversation.